Come, Holy Ghost, fill the hearts of thy faithful, and give them to find thy love, and cause thy faith that shall be created, and thou shalt bring the peace of us. Let us pray. O God, please instruct the hearts of thy faithful by the light of the Holy Ghost. Grant that by the same Spirit we may be truly wise and ever rejoice in His consolation. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Saint Joseph,
Pray for us.
Saint Thérèse of Avila,
Pray for us.
Saint John of the Cross,
Pray for us.
Saint Thérèse of the Child Jesus,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. One of you has lost his little office and the Imitation of Christ in the refectory. I don't know if you found it, but if you did find these two books. So the confession, Father Sandbach will be in the chapel this afternoon from 4:30 to 5:30, and also on Thursday at the same time. I will be in the evening, the chapel, every evening from 7:30 to 8:30. You have all week to make your confession, but good to do it when you are ready. We spoke about the contemplation of union of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, and we arrive at another step of her contemplative life, the spiritual espousal and the night of the Spirit. Saint Thérèse spoke often of her conversion at Christmas 1886. She comes more than once to this conversion. What passed between Jesus and herself on that Christmas night. This was one of those mystical graces which transform the soul in a few moments. So she says in chapter 5 of her life, on this night of grace, the third period of my life began. The most beautiful of all, the one most filled with heavenly favors. In an instant, O Lord, satisfied with my good will, accomplished the work I had not been able to do during all these years. Like the apostle, I could say, Master, we have labored all night and have taken nothing. For the Gospel of last Sunday. More merciful to me even than to his beloved disciples, our Lord himself took the net, cast it, and drew it out full of fishes. He made me a fisher of men. Love and a spirit of self-forgetfulness took possession of me, and from that time I was perfectly happy. So Father Bernard says that this period is a period of the spiritual espousal, using the terms of Saint John of the Cross and of Saint Thérèse of Avila. These words of the spiritual canticles are in the life of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux too. It is page 98, 99. And I give you a quotation. She gives a glimpse of what her contemplation was when she comments on the 25th stanza of the spiritual canticle of Saint John of the Cross. Treading within thy footsteps. Sometimes, she says, I had veritable transports. It was then also that a burning zeal for the salvation of souls was kindled within her. We can continue even these pages. If you have the book, you can read the consequence of this grace. I felt charity enter into my soul, and the need to forget myself and to please others. Since then I have been happy. One Sunday, looking at the picture of our Lord on the cross, I was struck by the blood flowing from one of the divine hands. I felt a great pang of sorrow when thinking of this blood was falling to the ground without anyone hastening to gather it up. I was resolved to remain in spirit at the foot of the cross and to receive the divine due. I understood I was then to pour it out upon souls. A few pages, lovely pages, you can meditate on this thought, the thirst of Jesus Christ. He was burned with the desire to snatch the sinners from the eternal flames. These are the first fruits, the sweet interchange of love. But the time of the espousals is also a time of trials, absence of God, searches after the beloved. And she was prepared for this complete severance from the world, because she was not yet in Carmel. She had resolved to enter Carmel. At the very hour she had received a grace of conversion, but it was not possible to enter exactly at the time for Christmas following year. Obstacles were to be expected. And she found the solitude, the waiting painful, the waiting. The divine call became so insistent, she says, that had it been necessary for me to go through fire, I would have thrown myself into it to follow my divine master. We think of these martyrs who went to the fire to give their life, and Saint Apolline, for instance. You know this martyr, Saint Apolline. the patron for the dentist, so the toothache can invoke Santa Pauline, because she had the martyr of the teeth and everything. But she was inspired by God. The fire was prepared for her, and she went into the fire by herself. It was not a suicide, but it was. We explained this, that it was a call. It was. She did not want to destroy her life. She did not despise her life. It was out of love for God. So, we have some example, not often, of this such a martyr. But so in the canticle, the dark night of the soul, Saint John of the Cross said, and we can apply this to Saint Thérèse. In that happy night in secret, seen of no one, seeing not myself, without other light or guide, save that which in my heart was burning. That light guided me more surely than the noonday sun, to the place where he was waiting for me, whom I knew well and where none appeared. She had a great peace in her soul, however. During that time she was waiting to enter the Carmel. Even if for 3 days the interior light was eclipsed. And she thought, during these 3 days she was waiting, the bitter grief of Our Lady and Saint Joseph when they were searching the streets of Jerusalem for the Divine Child. It was night, dark night, utter desolation, death. And never had I understood so well this grief of Our Lady and Saint Joseph. And also, like my Divine Master in the agony of the garden, I felt that I was alone and found no comfort on earth or in heaven. The light came back. The trial had been short. God never sends useless sufferings. And she says in chapter 6 of the Life, Our Lord, whose heart is always watching, taught me that He grants miracles to those whose faith is small as a grain of mustard seed, in the hope of strengthening this slender faith. She needed still this presence of God, and she was grateful to God, full of mercy towards her. While for his intimate friends, for his mother, he did not work miracles till he had proved their faith. In this way did my beloved act with his little Thérèse. After he had tried her for a long time, he granted all her desires. When she was in Carmel, how did God fulfill all the desires of Saint Thérèse? She says that suffering opened her arms to me from the first, and I took her to my heart. In the first place, my soul had for its daily food the bread of spiritual dryness. It was the beginning. But she asked for this. She wanted to suffer. So God answered a prayer. And this pain came from different parts. Could say, as the spouse of the canticle of St. John of the Cross, where hast thou hidden thyself, O my beloved? No answer from the prioress. She got pain from everywhere. Mother prioress, God allowed her to treat her severely. She said, you, speaking to our mother, prioress, right, in the writing, you found fault with me whenever you met me. I remember once I had left a cobweb in the cloister, and you said to me before the whole community, to humiliate her, it is easy to see that our cloister are swept by a child of 15. It is disgraceful. Go and sweep away that cobweb and be more careful in future. And so on. She was humiliated by a superior. The novice mistress, it is in chapter 7, you can read this. Novice mistress was a true saint, she said, perfect type of the first Carmelites. But she could not expand her soul to her. I could not explain myself. Words failed me, and so the time of spiritual direction became a veritable martyrdom. God allowed us that she could not open herself to a novice mistress who was a saint, she said. The confessor did not understand her. She had a great desire of loving God, and the confessor saw pride and presumption to love God. Not understood by the confessor. And the priest who understood her was sent to Canada. Could not contact him easily. This priest who preached a retreat. Neither our sisters, our proper sister, Pauline and Marie, were in the same Carmel. There was a rule of silence, and she did not want to have exemptions, to ask for exemptions. So she suffered not to open her heart to her sisters. The purification of the heart continued with the purification of the spirit. For can a soul desiring to be an open book for a superior and receive their words as those of our Lord Himself have a deeper suffering than to feel that she is not understood, and to receive direction which seems to contradict the aspirations inspired by the Holy Ghost. So, confessor give not good direction, and the superior did not understand. Saint Thérèse. For 5 years, this way was mine, but I alone knew it. This was precisely the flower I wished to offer to Jesus, a hidden flower which keeps its perfume only for heaven. He's suffering for 5 years, the beginning of her religious life. And there are other sufferings. He could not have communion every day, and because it was a rule in Carmel, it was at that time painful to live this religious life for her, and the cold and all those other sufferings. But this was the main suffering, one of the purification of the heart. And God was hiding himself, but she knew by faith that he was within her soul. She was soon to read this to her great consolation in the Canticle of Saint John of the Cross. What more canst thou desire, what more canst you seek outside thyself, seeing that within thee thou hast thy riches, thy delight, satisfaction, thy fullness, and thy kingdom. Be glad in him with interior recollection, seeing that thou hast him so near. Then love him here, then desire him here, then adore him here, and go not to seek him out of thyself. Last year we read this passage of Saint John of the Cross. I think it is in the Spiritual Canticles, first stanza. And so God is hidden in us, invites us to be hidden to the creatures. Hide thyself in the secret retreat of the Spirit, shutting the door upon thyself, that is, denying thy will in all things and praying to thy Father in secret. Then thou, being hidden with him, will be conscious of his presence in secret, and will love him, possess him in secret, and delight him in secret, in a way that no tongue, no understanding can express or arrive at. Go enter into thy chambers, shut the doors upon thee, that is, all thy faculties, so that no created thing shall enter. Be hid a little for a moment, that is, for the moment of this mortal life. For if now, during this life, which is short, thou wilt with all watchfulness keep thy heart, as the wise man said, God will most assuredly give thee, as he had promised by the prophet Isaiah, hidden treasures, and will disclose to thee the substance and mysteries of secrets. The substance of this secret is God himself, for he is the substance of faith and the object of it. And faith is the secret and the mystery. And when that which faith conceals shall be revealed and made manifest, that is the perfection of God, as says St. Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 10, then the substance and mysteries of the secrets shall be revealed to the soul. This passage of St. John of the Cross is a perfect description of St. Therese's religious life. During the postulancy of Saint Thérèse, she found the devotion to the Holy Face. And in this devotion she could see how God is a hidden God. His Holy Face is shows this absence of beauty in Jesus Christ. And she loved to consider, to contemplate the Holy Face of Jesus, and wanted to be unknown also to the creatures. It increases this will to be, this resolution to be unknown. I understood better than ever what true glory consists. In what true glory consists? Being unknown and esteemed as naught, in the joy of self-abasement. She wrote, I saw these few words where we see how she wanted to be forgotten, great desire to be forgotten. May I never seek or find aught but Thee alone. May all creatures be nothing to me, and I nothing to them. May no earthly thing disturb my peace. I want nothing but to be forgotten, no contempt, no insults. That would be too great an honor for the grain of sand. No contempt. She saw when we are contented, we pay attention to you. But when we are forgotten, it's better for us. Forgotten, it's worse. It's more painful than to be contented, to suffer the contempt of other people. I long to be unknown to every one of God's creatures. I have never desired glory amongst men, and if their contempt used to attract my heart, I have realized that even this is too glorious for me, and I cease to be forgotten. It is in one of our letters to Mother Agnes. In this inviolate solitude she sought not even the caresses of the divine bridegroom. Her unshaken faith so reassured her of the presence of the guest within. But she did not want to awake him. When God seemed to be absent, she was pleased. As Jesus in the bark was sleeping, she did not want to, the bark of her soul, she did not want to wake him. It is so sweet to serve God in darkness. We have only this life in which to live by faith. It is meritorious to live by faith. And especially in darkness, when we have no consolation. In a letter to Mother Agnes during her retreat before profession, she describes her prayer. It is an important document in which we can discern the obscure contemplation of Saint John of the Cross. I will read this passage, which is interesting to know this sort of prayer, obscure prayer, contemplation. Your little hermit must give you an account of her journey. Before starting, my beloved asked me in what land I wished to travel and what road I wished to take. I told him that I had only one desire, that of reaching the summit of the mountain of love. Thereupon roads innumerable spread before my gaze, but so many of these were perfect that I felt incapable of choosing any of my own free will. Then I said to my divine guide, "Thou knowest where lies the goal of my desire, and for whose sake I would climb the mountain. Thou knowest who possesses the love of my heart. For him only I set out on this journey. Lead me, therefore, by the path of his choosing. My joy shall be full if only he is pleased." And our Lord took me by the hand and led me through an underground passage where it is neither hot nor cold, where the sun shines not, and where neither wind nor rain can enter, a place where I see nothing but a half-veiled light, the light that gleams from the downcast eyes of the face of Jesus. My spouse speaks not a word, and I say nothing save that I love him more than myself. And in the depths of my heart I know this is true, for I am more his than mine. I cannot see that we are advancing towards our journey's goal, since we travel by a subterranean way. And yet, without knowing how, it seems to me that we are nearing the summit of the mountain. I give thanks to Jesus for making me walk in darkness, and in this darkness I enjoy profound peace. Willingly do I consent to remain through all my religious life in this gloomy passage into which he has led me. I desire only that my darkness may obtain light for sinners. I am content, full of joy, to be without all consolation. I should be ashamed if my love were like that of those earthly brides who are ever looking for gifts from their bridegrooms, or seeking to catch the loving smile which fills them with delight. Thérèse, the little spouse of Jesus, loves him for himself. She only looks on the face of her beloved to catch a glimpse of the tears which delight her with their secret charm. She longs to wipe away those tears, or to gather them up like priceless diamonds with which to adorn her bridal dress. Jesus, oh, I would so love him as he has never been loved. At all costs, I must win the palm of Saint Agnes. If it cannot be mine through blood, I must win it by love. So she describes this spiritual way as darkness, the underground, the night, dark night, but moved by the love for God, for souls, she went out of this underground, and she progresses in the love of God. It is a little way she wants to teach us. She desires nothing. I do not wish to see God, the good God, on earth, and yet I love him. the naked faith. Jesus prefers to leave me in darkness rather than afford me a false glimmer which would not be himself. And faith is the way to approach God. St. John of the Cross says, faith is the sole, proximate and proportionate means of the soul's union with God. So it was the way she took. God wanted her to, for each of us, even to take, in order to enter one day to the vision of God. One day, you remember, Saint Thérèse said when she was young, I chose everything, and she did not want to be half a saint by half. I chose all that you willest. By the light given her, she grasped from the first as though instinctively the doctrine of St. John of the Cross, who sees in mystical contemplation the fullness of the life of faith. Maybe you remember these words of St. John of the Cross, Spiritual Canticle. Never seek to satisfy thyself with what thou comprehendest of God, but rather with that what thou comprehendest not, and never rest on the love of and delight in that which thou canst understand and feel, but rather on that which is beyond thy understanding and feeling. This naked faith is so called because it is stripped of sentient sweetness of every image. It's a purification, passive purification of the spirit, which is very painful, and this lasted until the death of Saint Thérèse. She had to suffer until the end, this purification. But during this purification, there is a light, some light of the gifts of the wisdom and understanding, especially despite the obscurity of the faith, there are some intuitions about God, about truths which are given to the soul. What was the fruit of Saint Thérèse's prayer, great aridity? In chapter 9 of her life, she speaks about this fruit. At the beginning of my spiritual life, about the age of 14, I used to ask myself how in days to come I should more clearly understand the true meaning of perfection. I imagine that I then understood it completely, but I soon came to realize that the more one advances along this path, the farther one seems from the goal, and now I am resigned to be always imperfect. Chapter 7. It may be that someday my present state will appear to me full of defects, but nothing now surprises me, and I do not even distress myself because I am so weak. On the contrary, I glory therein and expect each day to find fresh imperfections. A lamp shines in darkness, but in the light of God we don't see anymore the lamp. In the light, in the sun, when there is a sun, we don't see anymore the lamp. It is the same with our soul. We maybe when we are far from the beginning of our spiritual life, we can see our action. They can appear good. We can see the progress in virtue. We are happy to, and then when we progress in spiritual life, we see we are closer to God, and we see we are nothing. There are a lot of work to do, and it's when you read the life of saints, they appear, they see in them many imperfections still. So they grow in humility, in the light of God, and if we don't, we are happier of ourselves when we grow in life. It's not a good sign. We should be we should see our imperfection still, and because the light of God gives a light on ourselves, on our soul. We should not despair, be discouraged for that, but we should work, continue to work, and to please God, and to purify ourselves, and God help us by the gifts of the Holy Ghost, by this purification to continue the work. We cannot finish this work by ourselves. Is why He sends such purification to the soul when she is faithful to the grace. Yes, this last purification which prepares the soul to see God in heaven, without purgatory, probably, for the saint. Otherwise we need the purgatory. This comparison with the lamp, it's from Saint Gregory the Great. I can quote exactly the words. The lamp shines in darkness. In the sunlight, it loses all its brilliance. So our actions appear to us good. But when we come to know, however little, of the divine realities, we see the nothingness of our works. In the light of God, the soul sees how far it is from the divine holiness. The more the saints progress in contemplation, the more conscious they are of their nothingness. This obscure contemplation she was secretly taught. In this obscure contemplation, she was secretly taught all she had need to know for her own guidance, so that all of the soul and that of the souls entrusted to her. She received unconsciously many interior lights on the best means of pleasing God and practicing virtue. And she observed that often our Lord will not give her any store of provision, but nourishes her each moment with food that is never ever new. When she had to teach novices, she got very on time what she needed to give them, and she said it was Jesus himself hidden in my poor heart who is secretly at work inspiring me with what he wishes me to do as each occasion arises. Chapter 8. I find it within me without knowing how it has come there. Practice of the prayer of union. She found a great assistance in Holy Scripture and imitation of Christ. A hidden manna, especially in the Gospels. I find most help in the time of prayer. From them I draw all that I need for my poor soul. The time of prayer is precious. I am always discovering in them new lights and hidden mysterious meanings in the Gospel. Our Lord has no need of books of teacher to instruct our souls. He is the teacher of teachers, and He instructs us without any noise of words. I have never heard Him speak, yet I know that He is within me. He is there, always guiding and inspiring me. And just when I need them, lights hitherto unseen break in. This is not as a rule during my prayers, but in the midst of my daily duties. The teacher teaches, instructs us without noise and words. It is infused contemplation. I know that I have experienced that the kingdom of God is within us. It is precious to think about this presence of God, as Blessed Elizabeth of Trinity teaches us too. How can find a source of recollection, and it can help to live in presence of God, this real presence of Blessed Trinity in our soul. And doing any work, not only at the time of prayer, but any time of the day. This obscure contemplation brought with it peace and joy. She insists on the peace which was always in the depths of her soul. No trouble. This peace has remained with me during the 8.5 years of my life here, and has never left me even amid the greatest trials. Even during the terrible malady of her father, she kept the peace in her soul. Her spiritual ability increased at that time. They found no comfort either in heaven or on earth. But this peace grew continually and attained its fullness in the martyrdom she suffered during the last 18 months of her life. This peace and joy, characteristic of the interior life of Saint Thérèse, almost veiled the passive purification through which she passed. And some sister could not notice this pain she suffered. One sister remarked, "It is said that you have never suffered much." To others she answered, "My life has been all rose color. They have thought that I continually drank of a most delicious wine, yet to me it has been full of bitterness." But in this bitterness she found joy and peace, because she knew by faith she was united with God. She was close to Him, even in the dryness, spiritual dryness she suffered. And she offered all, as you know, for the soul, for the priest, for so many intentions. It was not for herself, but she was thinking of others. It is true charity. She practiced so continually, we can say, the charity which we can speak again about this virtue in the following days, but it was our life to think of others, not to criticize others, not to be careful, attentive to others, to delicate with and this was noticed by some of the members of the community where she lived, and especially after her death, when you see in the book Saint Teresa, by those who knew her in the process of canonization, you can read all the nuns who spoke about her and the virtue, the heroicity of virtue. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Hail Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Ghost.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost.